Washington, the House will consider a resolution calling on the activists to leave the federal wildlife refuge and surrender to law enforcement. The measure is being introduced by Democratic Arizona Congressman Grijalva, who's condemning what he calls an illegal armed occupation. Congressman Grijalva joins me now. He's the ranking member of the Natural Resources Committee, which oversees public lands. Congressman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
You have our Oregon Congressman Greg Alden, whose district is in this area, saying Americans have the right to protest, but it should not take on this form. He did, though, say that the ranchers in this country just want to take care of the environment, and it is the government that is all too often ignoring the law, as it has in the country repeatedly. Your reaction to your colleague?
Well, you know, this is a country that follows the rule of law. And every elected official, every representative here in D.C. should take a position on this, pure and simple. People should know if we're for the rule of law. The rule of law is not selective. And the rule of law shouldn't be some people get to slide by the rule of law, as these occupiers are doing now, and others have the full punishment of the law upon them. You can't do that. If the rule of law applies to all of us, this land is taxpayer owned. Every taxpayer in this country owns the land that they're occupying, and they're doing it illegally. And as such, the resolution, quite frankly, is one of disapproval. And we wrote it in such a way that it would not prevent people from signing it. Congress needs to tell, if we want a peaceful resolution, members of Congress have to, in strong numbers, tell these occupiers, we're not with you, we disapprove, you're breaking the rule of law, and as a consequence, get out and stop this occupation. That's a peaceful resolution that by signing on to this resolution, members of Congress can help accomplish.
Do you believe there's any credibility to this desire, they say, to have a wholesale transfer of ownership of these lands? We have the numbers which have been reported according to congressional figures. 53% of Oregon, 85% of Nevada, 66% of Utah is controlled by the government. These men and some women there claim that they want to have a wholesale transfer. Is that even possible? Do you believe that's even legit?
First, and second of all, it's not possible. The simple fact is that these are public lands, federal public lands owned by every taxpayer. It's not, you know, we don't want the Bundy clan to end up being the deciders of what happens with federal land in Arizona or Oregon. Certainly not, and the American people don't want that. We don't want it turned over wholesale to the states so that governors can decide what development, commercial, housing, will go next to something like the Grand Canyon or something like the Great Teton natural areas or other important public lands that everybody enjoys. Visitorship this year was up in record numbers. Next year, anticipated more. The American people love their public lands. They support them through their tax dollars and their visitation, and no one state, no one individual should have the right to control those public lands that are owned by the rest of us.
And Congressman, you make the point that many critics have said this is everyone's land in the United States who owns it, not just a few ranchers who want to use it for their grazing to make their profit or whatever they choose to do with it. It belongs to the citizens of this country, the taxpayers of this country. With that said, these people have been described in many ways. I'm sure you've seen on social media, some even calling them, you know, terrorists. How do you describe these individuals? The leadership, certainly on the visible leadership that is coming in front of the television cameras and is being quoted in newspapers and heard on the radio, that leadership, primarily the Bundy leadership, they're extremists. They have supremacist ties that are pretty obvious to everyone else. This is an extremist faction that perverts the idea of our public lands and makes it a constitutional issue when none exists. No, the leadership certainly, to put it mildly, is extremist, and the tendencies and the political positions that they take should have been concern to everyone, and for them to purport to represent the American people on the issue of public parks is ridiculous. And just lastly here, we see the video, many of them armed. You had an individual yesterday under a tarp, armed, talking about resisting if these are warrants which have not been confirmed. How concerned are you that this could escalate, given you have some angry individuals who are unwilling to leave and are armed?
But I'm concerned that I think that the federal agencies have handled it very well. They've shown restraint, patience, allowing the local community to try to negotiate a peaceful settlement. I think that's all positive. But at the same time, the bottom line is that a law is being broken. And if these individuals are seeking to make some symbolic statement, then it's going to be very difficult to negotiate with them at all. But I think Congress can play a huge role. Sign on to this resolution, show your support for it, condemn this illegal occupation, and that way you send a message to those occupiers that they have no support at the highest levels of government and that they need to cease what they're doing.
Congressman Raul Grijalva, thank you so much for your time.